Mayor Sam. Good timing. How are you, buddy?
Good, thank you.
The floor is yours.
Great. Kia ora koutou, Konihira o Otatahi. I'm Sam, Mayor of your neighbouring district, Selwyn, and President of Local Government New Zealand, and back here today to talk on behalf of LGNZ and your membership and contribution to the good work across Aotearoa. Firstly, please continue to be members of LGNZ. Your contribution to LGNZ, to the way that local government functions across the country, to the way the government thinks about local government, is important that you're in the tent and working with us. There's a few key reasons why we think it's important for you to stay and benefits for you to be a part of that. Firstly, and I mentioned this last time, the $1.2 million that conference brings into the city. So we'll be here last year for conference, and we'll plan to book back here for conference again. That'll bring over 800 delegates from across the country, key leaders for local government. It'll bring the Prime Minister and other ministers into town for that conference as well, and supports your hotel and hospitality sector. So your direct income for the Christchurch economy of 1.2 million. We also have a lighting profile that we believe would save the city $500,000. This is the ability to work with your electricity providers around using dimmable lights and making sure that you receive the savings for dimming lights. It's been, we've done some research to understand what the impact would be for you, and would be happy to work with you on the implementation of that. Could save about $500,000 for you. And our corner is the professional development space for local government as a part of Local Government New Zealand. As those of you will know, if you've attended courses either individually or brought people in to facilitate courses for yourselves, they can range from sort of between $2,000 and $20,000 per course. All of the professional development within our corner is included in your membership for both you and the community boards within Christchurch as well. I think that continuing to be involved with LGNZ is good for your advocacy. There's certainly things that Christchurch and Greater Christchurch and Canterbury work together on advocacy for, but being part of the national story around government understanding the pressures and needs of local government is helpful, so that when you then have a minister in town or the Prime Minister in town and talk to your specific Christchurch needs and desires to invest for New Zealand, the context of local government is understood by those ministers. Having Phil on National Council means that the Christchurch voice is at the table in the direction of Local Government New Zealand, and having Simon Britton, one of your community boards, he's a co-chair of the Community Board Executive Committee within LGNZ, also means that the influence of Christchurch around the direction that we take is helpful. And thank you, Phil, for your contribution in that space, and to Simon as well. The government's been really clear about wanting to work with regions and working with councils that work with one another. That's why they're talking about city and regional deals. That's why the Local Water Done Well is asking us to think about how we work with one another. And so being in a space where you show that your commitment to Local Government New Zealand, working for the sector across the nation, is a part of what the government's expecting to see from us as councils. And lastly, I think that it's good for not only for you, but it's good for the South Island. Often there can be some conversations about is Christchurch is Christchurch with us on this, or is Christchurch trying to be above us on this? And these are conversations that other councils feel, and attitudes towards Christchurch City. Because you're the biggest, you hold the most sway, you are able to attract attention. A lot of the press stories are around what happens for Christchurch City Council. And the Canterbury Mural Forum's been really clear that we should be doing things together. Māori from Hiranui often talks about how do we do things together for Canterbury, and that means being involved with one another, understanding each other, and being committed to one another. And so the South Island wants Christchurch to be in the tent working with us. And so thank you for the opportunity to come today. I am just reiterating lots of the things that I said last time, but I know that it's one of your decisions. So, please stay with LGNZ.
Okay, so we've got Councillor Cotter, Councillor Fields, Councillor... Right, Coco, sorry. Yeah. I spent...
You're so similar.
Yeah. Councillor Coker, Councillor Fields. For a start.
I've got 3 questions. What will be the view of Selwyn District Council of Christchurch City Council if we vote not to continue being members of LGNZ today? Is there a view?
The decision of our district will not just be mine to make, it'll be of our council, so I couldn't really give you an answer to that. But I know that we have wanted to work in collaboration with Christchurch City now since 2007, being part of the Greater Christchurch Partnership, and collaboration and working together for our area is hugely important to us. The artificial line that sits somewhere between Hallsville and Taitapu and somewhere halfway through Templeton, and as you head past the prison out towards West Melton, like that really is, it's a line on a map that doesn't mean a whole lot to people that travel over it every day. And we need to both be able to serve the communities. Our economies are linked. The people that live in our communities are linked. Our people that play in our sports teams are linked together. So yeah, we would rather you continue to think about partnership, and that means staying with us. Yeah.
With the conference you mentioned, if we voted to leave today, would that conference still be in Christchurch next year?
No, we would look to have the conference somewhere else.
Okay, and I guess the last one is about kind of lobbying, because what sort of started, I think, this kind of question about being part of LGNZ was whether it was giving a voice to central government that we as a council had at that time. Have you got any comment on that?
I mean, I think you should do your own advocacy to the government. I think that's an important part of being a large city and wanting outcomes for Christchurch. But that also means that when you're a part of that advocacy, having some joint advocacy that's gone on beforehand in front of you helps smooth the road for your own individual advocacy. I've got regular meetings with the Prime Minister, Minister for Infrastructure, Ministers for local government that happen on the New Zealand context of local government, and I think that really helps. When you ask for things, they understand the setting that you're in, and we've seen that really clearly with the rates rise conversation. You know, New Zealand has gone through this year rates rises between 6 and 26%. That's way higher than we've been before, and the government now knows that because LGNZ has pushed it. We've created over 100 stories in the media about that need, and so by us doing that, it makes it easier for you as decision makers for Christchurch City to have the rate rise that's appropriate to you, but higher than what rates rises have been in the last 10 years.
Thank you. Councillor Field? Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. So for a ward that's like Banks Peninsula, that's like full of communities of special character and is largely rural in sort of outlook and makeup, I guess. What are the benefits there? Do you think that you know, and it's tacked on to a metropolitan, you know, a metropolitan space. So what are the benefits that membership would bring for a ward like, you know, Banks Peninsula, just given the context, you know, the sort of the relationship it has with the city?
Yeah. So most of the services and benefits that LGNZ provide are to councils rather than to individuals within the community. That the individuals piece comes from like the business spend that will come with conference next year and that sort of thing. The spend and benefit for councils and community boards is really those direct stuff that through training, through networking. Like last week we ran an online session looking at abuse of elected members, and that then becomes available to all elected members, whether you were one of the 100 that could be in the room at the time or not. And if you come up against that and you might not be feeling it right now, in 12 months time you're like, oh man, I mean, what supporters are out there for me when I'm going through ABC? You can connect back in to those. I've heard LGNZ membership described like gym membership. You know, there's lots of things maybe in a gym that you don't ever use and until you actually want or need to use them. And the more you use them, the better your fitness gets. And so actually being able to connect them with LGNZ on the things that matter to you when you need them, we make them available all the time.
Thank you. Councillor Kewen?
Sam, you'd make way more money selling real estate, but that aside, you spoke of our neighbours, including yourselves, wanting to be having us in the tent and a partnership and that in the region and stuff like that. So where does that leave our conversation over funding Canterbury facilities, i.e. the stadium? We're already in the tent on the museum, but the centre are more than happy to receive some funding from you guys, as well as other any major events that we do as a region. So do we have a way forward on that?
Yeah, and I've said to Phil, once the stadium's built, we need to be talking about what attractions come to the city and how do we actually work together to say, when something is hosted at the arena, how does that benefit the rest of Canterbury and what might the contribution need to be? So, it's not about the build of the facility,
Yeah,
but when
that's done.
But when you think about that next stage, I think there does need to be a conversation that we have.
Right.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
Thank you. So, some concerns been raised over value of membership. So, what approach has been made from the council and requests have been made of LGNZ over the last year or so around value and what improvements it would like to see to value? What requests have come over the last year in that space?
I think in the last 12 months we've seen a change in leadership within LGNZ, so that's Phil and I have been a part of that change. And the value piece has been around responsiveness to our members' needs. That was the Future by Local Government work. There were over 200 people in the room across 2 days, and the ability for every elected member to feed into what the priorities for LGNZ were going to be. That meant that if things were going to be 50-50, we dropped them. You know, like, people are really passionate about the voting age being 16. Some people are equally passionate about making sure the voting age is never below 18. And so we're like, let's not make that an LGNZ priority at the moment. Like, so let's drop the stuff that's controversial. And so I think that's been the biggest change that with Phil and my positions within LGNZ's National Council, we've been able to reflect back community value.
Yeah, no, I mean, from this council, what requests have been made of LGNZ around its concerns around the value of the membership and what changes it would like to see to whether it's the membership structure or where it sees it's not getting value? What requests have been made to try and improve the value?
Well, Phil, I can't answer that. I don't have a list of the number of requests that were made. Sorry, Andre.
I don't just mean like remits or that kind of thing. But if it believes it's not getting good value of LGZ, what requests have been made to improve the value?
So on National Council, with Phil being there, that has meant that he's raised some things about, you know, should we be doing this piece of work or should we be doing more on this piece of work? So I think your involvement, not necessarily directly from the council itself, but through your membership and Phil's position on National Council has shaped that.
Yeah, the requests have been responded to and acted on, is what you're saying.
Thank you. And lastly, Councillor Templer, please.
Thanks, Sam. Listen, it would be fair to say, and there's a number of people around the table here who weren't here last term, that the first questions about membership of LGNZ came around the disconnect between LGNZ and councils when it came to the Three Waters reforms. And I was there at the Zone 5 Zone 6 meeting when there was the apology and a really good conversation about where to go from there. Could you just talk us through how LGNZ has changed its approach since then and what it's learnt from that and how that has happened, the value that the membership has had in doing that?
Yeah, I think Phil and I have been a part of that change. That was one of the key reasons why I wanted to be president of Local Government New Zealand, because I felt that some of the stories and the value that members saw wasn't actually truly what was going on. So the Three Waters conversation, because the government was so quiet on what they were doing and then put out misleading adverts to the community and changed their position from this is all optional, no, it's not, it's mandatory. You know, like Local Government New Zealand, because we were trying to share information that the government wasn't, got seen as being the promoter of all this change. That's 2 or 3 years ago now. That's not the space that we're in. The only things that you'll see LGNZ take an advocacy position on are those that have been agreed by more than 75% of our members. That's why we're not doing the 50-50 stuff anymore. Individual members can do that. The Future by Local Government work confirmed what those areas were, and those will be where and most of the areas were 95% supported. So that's where you'll see LGNZ working now.
Thank you. Councillor Scandrett.
And thank you very much for coming. Always a pleasure. I'm not talking about political parties, I'm talking about ministries. I think we have more from the ministries in Wellington putting up more and more requirements for local government, and it's harder for smaller rural organisations or councils than ourselves, although it's technically more costly, with regards to rules and requirements to fulfil at the end of the problem. And I'm just wondering, how much do the ministries really listen to LGNZ? Because the key, small councils will never be, it seems, will never be listened to, irrelevant of their ministers, and it's not politics, I'm talking about ministries, listening to their ministers, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
It's ministry by ministry, so there's different approaches taken by each. The Ministry for the Environment has invited local government members to work on the local government steering group with them, which helped shape some of the conversations around the RMA. That's a scaled down group with this government, but the ministry is still keen for that to occur, and members are still a part of that. So it does happen. And I feel like one of the conversations we need to have as a country is the shape and size of councils, and how we work together and how we collaborate with one another. And to your point, exactly, Kaikoura, for an example, in Canterbury, serving a community of about 5,000 people, is responsible to meet all the same deadlines, to work with all the same legislation, to employ their chief executive, to be abused in the local supermarket, all of the things that you go through. For over nearly 400,000 people. So there's this real difference in the way that local communities are. And so LGNZ serves all those communities, and we're wanting to facilitate safe spaces for conversations about changes and better collaboration. You guys and us, I mean, at the moment, we need to work together in new ways. Yep.
Okay, I want to get moving along here because we're well over, but good questions. Councillor Coker, again.
Sorry, I was just about community boards because it just struck me then that, I mean, our council's, I think, the only one in New Zealand, if I'm right, that actually has community boards across its whole district. And I think and so if we were to step away from LGNZ, what effect would that have on the community board participation within sort of LG? I mean, I know that there's CBEC but yeah, especially in the South Island. I can't remember the numbers of community boards, but yeah.
So Christchurch has influence, and your influence on National Council through Phil, and your influence in the community board space to support other members and think about advocacy through Simon is considerable. And I don't think Simon will continue to be able to be have that level of influence as co-chair of CBEC if Christchurch decides to withdraw.
Thank you. And Mark, Councillor Peters, please.
Thank you. I'm thinking one of the reasons that's brought this to our attention is the increase in price this year. And I'm picking that a large amount of that is likely to be the fact that we've now finally got access to the Akona training. Why could LGNZ not make that available without blowing the price out so dramatically?
So the lift in cost this year there's numerous reasons. Actually, probably the biggest reason is because we haven't put prices up for the last 3 years. And before that, we weren't putting them up by CPI. So the cost to deliver for councils has gone up and income hasn't matched that. Yes, providing a corner means that instead of being a purchase and only those councils that purchase it can receive it, now means that it's available to all members. So that is a contributing factor. But LGNZ as an organisation has made decisions to cut costs as well. So the lift was looking, and I mean, your council will have done this too over the last 6 months, shifted what costs could have been to try and make savings. So we've moved premises, or will have moved premises twice in the last 12 months to save costs. Vacancies that had been there or have been created over the last wee while won't be replaced and filled. So we've taken a really strong look at what's the income and expenditure of LGNZ and tried to keep costs as low as we can, while making sure we fund the type of system that we need to keep everyone working well and healthy.
Thank you. And thank you very much for coming in, Sam. That's great. We will now stop and come back at 25 to 12 for something to carry on. We'll have a smoker because we haven't had anything for a while.
Cool, thank you, everyone.